Welcome to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast. My name is Eric, and I'm joined by my co-host Kevin. Welcome back for our 94th episode, where we're breaking down a Patriots win versus the Houston Texans as they advance to the AFC Championship game, and we are previewing that AFC Championship game versus the Denver Broncos in Denver. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter/X at Pats 300 Level Pod for up-to-minute updates and commentary on news of the day. Kevin, Patriots win against the Texans. Close at some points, but for the most part, it felt like the Patriots were in control most of the game. Got a little concerning when there were some of the turnovers, and then in the fourth quarter, it got to a one-score game. But they ended up pulling through. Defense was dominant all game. What was your thoughts on the game? Just the gameplay overall. I know we both predicted them to win with a similar score. Patriots won 28-16. I predicted them to win 24-16. You predicted 27-13. So pretty much on par with the score as what we were expecting. But what was your thoughts of the game, the gameplay, and then also how was the atmosphere in the stadium for the Patriots' last home game of the year?
Yeah, I think the atmosphere is very similar to the last game, if not maybe slightly more intense. So I'm really upset that we don't get a one more game out of this at Gillette, because the last two games have been something this we haven't had here, and even during the last run of the dynasty, it felt like even earlier than that. So some of the excitement, some of just the what it felt like in there, I haven't felt that in over 10, 15 years. So it was really cool to be at. As far as the game, I think they played well for the most part. And we have to remember too, this Texans defense we're going up against is really good. They ended up scoring the second most amount of points on the Texans than any other team they faced this year, not counting Week 18, just because that's not a
To, to be fair, well, one of the scores was a pick six, but
yeah. But we
yeah.
don't know if that. I didn't check to see if there are any other defensive touchdowns in the
Yeah.
other one, so that's why I'm counting it as that. But still, 21 points is still even 21 points on offense is still higher than what their average points allowed with
Yep.
15 points. So they're able to put up points against this team. Um, and even with their own turnovers, even with the turnover, they weren't able to actually score that really any points on turnovers from Houston, which was one little bit of a negative. You would have liked to see them to get at least something out of those turnovers, with the exception of the Marcus Jones pick six. But I think it was again relentless pressure from the defense, really making Stroud uncomfortable, and doing what they needed to do when they needed to do it on offense. So getting those three touchdown drives, running out the clock at the end of the game. So I think overall it was a pretty good win. Yeah, that's all I had from that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, again, it's a lot of it is what we were expecting going into the game. We were expecting the Texans defense to be suffocating at times, especially their front four pass rush, where they're able to get pressure with just four guys. They have a good secondary, so it's tough to pass against them. And then because of their front four, it's also a little tough to run against them too. It's pretty much what played out. And then also with Nico Collins being out, we thought that the Texans offense was going to struggle against this Patriots defense. And then also with the Texans losing Dalton Schultz early or in the first quarter, essentially taking away CJ Stroud's security blanket. I just knew right there, as long as you didn't give them points on turnovers, it was going to be almost impossible for the Texans to win. It pretty much played out exactly as I was expecting. Drake Maye, he had some good moments. The he has to speed up. If he's going up against a rush like that, he has to get the ball out quicker, in my opinion. But I also think part of that is Josh McDaniels as a play caller has to give him plays that allows him to get the ball out quicker, not slow developing plays. And that's something that Brady specialty, again, he played 20 years by the end of his Patriots career, but when he was going up against really good pass rushers, it was just quick screen or quick slant, three-step drop, and it's out no matter what. That's something that Drake May will have to learn, but he did have some really good moments. All three touchdowns were just perfect throw. perfect catch where he threw the ball only where the receiver could get it. And it was also great catches by Diggs and Booty as well. But I thought
And Pop. Don't
overall,
forget the Pop one.
top two.
It
Yeah.
was a deflected ball too,
Yeah.
and that it could have easily been an incompletion with that from it not
Yeah.
being a straight on pass to him.
Exactly. But overall, it played out exactly what I thought it was going to be. And just happy. A win's a win. It wasn't the prettiest game, but a win's a win.
Yeah, and I think just another thing with that, where with Drake needing to kind of speed up his internal clock, um, some of them were not just Josh did have the play for him where it was a three-step drop. And Drake has to know in that instance, if it is a three-step drop, he needs to go one, two, three, throw. If it's not
Yeah.
there, you got to either throw it away or run. You
Mhm.
can't go. It's when he was double clutching is where we
Yeah.
ended up seeing the issues there. And I get he's trying to make a play and trying to keep the play alive. But
Mhm.
there's going to be some of those instances where you got to realize what's going on around you and that you can't be reckless with the ball. And that's been two games in a row where he's been very loose with it. Part of me is still a little just concerned about what if that's is it just the defense he's going up against, or this is another kind of wet, cold game?
Yeah.
And is it something where it could be? I know he's got below the ideal hand size for a quarterback. I think all of the quarterbacks coming out of this class ended up having that. Um, is it something with that? Is it the fact that he's not wearing a glove? Like Tom always
Mhm.
wore a glove, where you could have that tackiness with that. But for the most part, it just seemed like he's being a little bit more. The way I think of it, just the being a little bit reckless with the
Yeah.
ball. Um,
And there was also another play where he got sacked where he left the ball out exposed and he got very lucky that that wasn't another fumble as well.
yeah.
The cold and weather doesn't concern me as much considering the throws that he had. The touchdown passes to Diggs, the one to Boot or to Douglas was good, but to Diggs and Booty specifically, those passes were just completely on the money where it's not like the bad weather was causing him to be bad. Also, at least two or three of the fumbles were, like you said, it was double clutching, and then it's not like it was in his left hand. He was about to
Mm.
throw it, and it got stripped there. So, again, I blame that more. I don't really put too much of that on the weather, just more him going up against really good pass rushers that were able to beat their guys, and the offensive line not blocking as long as they should have. But again, also tough assignment for Campbell too, going up against both Anderson and Hunter.
Yep. And then the other thing, thinking of from that game, it was that I really think coming out of the half, they really probably should have benched Stroud for Davis
Yeah.
Mills. Just the way the game was going, Stroud really didn't have it. I don't know if Mills would have either, just based on the
Yeah.
pass rush that the Patriots were getting. And it was still a close game at the half.
Hmm.
But just with the amount of turnovers that were happening, Stroud clearly couldn't really throw the ball in that weather. And with that pass rush, even the first throw out of the gate, he missed a wide open guy. Um, he did something where I've never seen before, where he basically caused his tight end to tear his ACL by on
Yeah.
how bad that ball was thrown in the third or fourth quarter.
Yep.
Um, it's just he need to be better. And again, I do give the Patriots a lot of credit there too, though. Because
Yep.
one, it was I think a lot of it was the dome team coming up north, but the other part of it was the amount of pressure the Patriots were able to get on him,
Yeah.
and force him to be uncomfortable.
Yep. 100%. And I do think not having Nico Collins, not having Dalton Schultz was a big factor. But like you said, his passes, even just the first pass of the game, just were not on point. I think the weather was definitely affecting him.
Hmm.
And also, there were probably four or five other throws that should have been intercepted too. Like
Oh
he
yeah, you should have had
should
even
have
more
had
turnovers than he
seven,
had.
yeah, seven, eight interceptions. One thing that you brought up, which I do think is very important, is having five turnovers and only getting 7 points is concerning. Again, they're a good defense. You have to move the ball, but if you're going to want to win these next two games, also against good defenses, you're going to have to put up points.
You have to put up
Um,
points and not turn the ball over.
yeah, exactly.
And then Drake had fumbled it what, three times and lost two of them.
I think four times and
Four.
lost two. Let me double
Um,
check.
but whatever that number is, yeah, he needs to. It could have even been even worse
Yeah,
if the
there
defense
was there.
recovered.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say if the defense recovered the ball, it would have been even worse for
Yeah.
that. Now, would they have scored points? I don't know. They were having
Mhm.
trouble the whole day, but it's not a great situation to put yourself in.
Yeah, there was four fumbles, two recovered, and then there was that other one where it was a sack, I believe, by Anderson, where the ball was completely exposed and probably should
Hmm.
have been another fumble that they would have recovered.
All right. Anything else before we move to three up, three down?
Uh, Not really. It was just a full defensive team win. There was again another week where there's not really much on the defensive side you could really knack.
Hmm.
Maybe Davis on his penalties, but as we're seeing week in, week out, this is kind of the Carlton Davis
And honestly,
experience.
the way the what they were calling,
Yep.
like they were very ticky tack.
Yeah.
Like especially there's the one where he grabbed the hip, like he had his arm around the hip, but he didn't
Yeah.
restrict him in any way. He didn't turn him around.
Mhm.
Defensive players put their hands on people's bodies,
Yeah.
and it's never called. And that one shouldn't have been called there. I honestly can't remember what the other one was. But that's the one that stood out the most. All of his penalties were kind of
Yeah.
where the other fact, the thing that made me think of that the most though was that there were multiple plays in the first half. I think it was the first half where against the Patriots where it should have been called a PI
Yeah.
is based on what they're calling for Davis, and they weren't calling
Mhm.
it against the Texans there. And because of that, that's also why I think you got to be consistent. They weren't
Yeah.
being consistent during that part.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, but overall, defense was fantastic once again. They're gonna have to be again this week. Offense, they did enough, but you hope that you can get more out of it the next couple weeks.
All right, three up, three down. So I've got Chase on Booty and Mondre. So Chase on, he's gotten better and better each week. He's
Yeah.
forcing a ton of pressure. He's really showing kind of why he was that first round pick before. I think a bunch of it too is having Milton back,
Yeah.
which is helping him. Kind of thrive here. Booty, he had a couple big plays. One, that huge touchdown catch. It was an amazing catch by him. Ball
Yep.
control, grabbing it with one hand. He had that other really good catch for, I think it was around, was it 20 or 20, 30 yards?
32.
30, yeah. And he ended up just grabbing it and going. He's been really dependable for them. One of
Yeah.
well, one of their better receivers. Obviously, a lot of them are actually better than a lot of people thought. And then
I'd say
Mondre,
he's their this might be controversial. I think he's their most dependable receiver where you need a tough contested throw, you need a first down. If you're throwing it to him, like I trust him the most to come down with it. Where Diggs, I trust the most to get open,
mhm,
but Booty, I trust the most where you need a catch, it's going to him.
yeah. And then Mondre, it was getting frustrating because the fact that he was out with the eye injury. But
Mhm.
every time he got the ball, it's been like this now, what, 6 weeks, five,
Ever
six
since the
weeks?
bye, since the
Ever
bye.
since the bye, he's getting always anywhere from 4 to 6 yards at
Mhm.
least on every carry, and he's got great vision. He's very quick and elusive. He's pushing the pile. He has been awesome ever since the bye, and they really needed him. I think they would have done better on offense if he wasn't out with the eye
Yeah,
injury
that's fair.
for part of the game because he was the one dependable thing that you had on offense to start the game where you would run and you know you're getting yards. And we'll get into someone else afterwards why they didn't pick up that slack.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, three up, Marcus Jones, again, he's been incredible pretty much all season. In
Mhm.
my opinion, he should have been at least at worst second team all pro for slot corner. I think you could argue he had a better season than Cooper Najeen, but Najeen has the more well-known recognition. But he's just been incredible all season long, and it happened again this week with a pick six. Booty with 3 catches, 75 yards with the touchdown. Again, like we just mentioned, he's just been so dependable, always coming up with big plays and big moments. And he's someone that I really hope that they extend this offseason, where even though he hasn't had ton of stats, you might be able to get a more team-friendly contract since he's only had like 500 yards the last 2 years, where you can get him 3 year, $25 million contract or something extension like that. So that even since he has 1 year left on his deal, I want him in place with Drake Maye and he can continue to possibly turn into that number one guy. My third is Carlton Davis, two big interceptions, and they were just incredible catches too. The first one, I don't know how he was able to get his knee down in bounds, but it was just such a great catch. I had no idea what Josina Anderson was talking about, saying that it shouldn't have been an interception.
I was just gonna go into it saying that Justina needs to get her eyes checked or actually learn the rules or
Yeah, I
learn
think it's more learning
anything,
the rules.
because I don't think she knows anything that she's doing other than knowing how to try and get clicks on the most vague, useless tweets that she ever sends out and trying to make it seem like she knew something when she had no clue what was going on.
Yeah. And then he also had the second one where it was the it was bobbling, but he was able to do the toe tap after he got possession of the ball. And then for honorable mention, I also have Morgan Moses, who played an incredible game. When whichever of the defensive ends he was going up with at the time, either Anderson or Hunter, he had 34 snaps at right tackle for pass blocking, zero pressure, zero sacks. He had the highest PFF graded offensive lineman performance of the week with a 94.2 pass blocking grade. He was great when they needed him against really good competition. Also, honorable mention Milton Williams again. Just he's just a havoc. Provides so much pressure in the pass game, run game. He's able to disrupt players' routes by pushing the offensive lineman into it when there's motion behind the offensive line, guys crossing, and then also another honorable mention is Chase on, like you said.
Yeah, and then with Morgan Moses, the way that they will get the most rushing yards with Mondre was running to that right side,
Yeah.
with Moses and with Owenu. So really, thought the run blocking there was good as well. All right, three down. I've got Campbell, Henderson, and May. Campbell again had a rough game, which again he's going up against some really great top defensive ends and pass rush. But again, needs to be better. And I think he will be better. Henderson is just he did not run well this game, and he hasn't really. The thing with him this season is that if he doesn't have a wide open lane, or
Yeah.
doesn't have a guy within like 3 yards of him, he's getting stopped. Like he's running straight into defenders. He's not really being elusive. He's not picking the right holes a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And really those big rushes that you see of him, it's when something's blocked really well, or if there's just a huge gap for him to run through. He just outruns someone. There's not that elusive like juking or spinning or stuff that you see Mondre do, or picking the right hole. Where there's a probably 5 to 8 runs where he just chose the wrong hole and has ended up
Yep.
running right into the defense there instead of actually having the right gap to run through. Um, I think he'll get better as it takes a while for some running backs to get that vision and play at that NFL speed.
Yep.
He's not where a running back needs to be right now. And then May, you can't have all those turnovers.
Yeah.
If you're the best player on the team, you need to control the ball and not get it on the ground.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. That's why my three down is exactly the same. Not much more to really add other than what you just said. Campbell, only thing I will say is in his two playoff games so far, he's allowed 9 pressures, 6 hurries, 3 sacks. In this past game, he had a 16.5 pass blocking grade. It's just not going to be able to get it done. If the Patriots want to have success, he has to perform better. And he's up for, well, we're going to talk about the Broncos in a minute, but he's going to have a tough challenge again against that Broncos front seven pass rush.
Uh, so quick news around the NFL. A bunch of coaching hires over the last couple days. Stefanski to the Falcons. That was one that I think we both predicted as well.
Yep.
Solid to the Titans. We did not have that one.
We did not.
Jeff Hafley, which I would have never guessed would have gone to the Dolphins. We didn't actually project anyone to the Dolphins, just because they weren't one of those top coaching destinations. It makes sense with the GM coming from the
Yeah.
Packers. Doesn't make sense where I don't think he was really a good coach at BC for being a head coach, and then you end up throwing him to the NFL. I think it's very questionable.
Yeah.
At the very most, at the very least. And then the Bills firing McDermott and Brendan Bean being promoted. That is something I wasn't expecting. That
Yeah.
last part. I think
I
both
wasn't
of us were
expecting.
saying that we wouldn't be surprised. I thought he might have saved his job for winning the first game.
Mhm.
Um, and the fact that the Bills were all upset with the officials were, even though I think the officials had the right calls.
Yeah.
Um, I thought he still would have stayed, but I wasn't shocked when I saw the news he was fired. I was shocked when they promoted Brandon Beane to
Yeah.
president of football operations, where the biggest issue, besides the coaching on this team, is the decimation of talent on the Bills side, where
Mhm.
they've lost a bunch of players, they've gotten older, and they haven't hit on their draft in years. And then the extremely odd press conference for today, where the owner ends up bashing Keon Coleman, who is still on the team,
Yeah.
and
That
then
was.
saying that McDermott was the one that wanted to pick him. Brandon just went along to get along. Where now there's two videos circulating out there, one from the combine, one from the draft, where this Coleman was clearly Bean's guy. It wasn't
Yep.
McDermott's guy. And it's just one of those cases where the GM has the ear of the owner the like every day because he's sitting up with him in the box, he's in the meetings with him, and
He
he's
pulled an Elliott
telling
Wolf.
exactly, and he's telling the owner what he wants the owner to know. And the obviously the coach doesn't have as much time with the owner as the GM does. And that's why the GM usually stays longer than the coach, and it's usually never the right decision
Yep.
for the most part. Other than I would say maybe the Eagles,
Mhm.
because I do think Howard Roseman does a really good job
I agree.
with them, and it's just I don't think they ever have the right head coach like
Mhm. Yeah.
to stay there. Um, so yeah, the other three hires, I don't really think there's really much to say other than I don't know what they're doing with Halfley, and then I was a little surprised with Salah just taking his second coaching gig with the
Yeah.
Titans
I'd
with
agree
how
with that.
much of a disaster that organization is. Although it just could be, I think there's two things why I think he might have taken the chance. One, he might like Cam Ward, and think that he can make it work with him. And then two, there's not really going to be that many hirings next year. So you have 10 this year,
Mhm.
which is a third of the league. So those 10 probably aren't going to be rehired. A lot of the other teams are pretty stable. So you're really only looking at a small handful, maybe three to at most.
Bengals and Bucks definitely will
So
be.
Bengals, Bucks,
Eagles.
um, the potential for the Eagles.
Oh, it is the
Um,
Eagles.
the Eagles most likely, unless they win the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Like, so that's why I said the potential.
Yeah.
It's most likely Sirianni's going next year. Uh, and that's like pretty much, oh, the Jets. Um, so that's what, four there?
Yeah. Unless
Um,
there's another team that they hire a Drake Maye type where you can, or Nathaniel Hackett, where you can tell year one it's just not the right
yeah,
guy,
it
which
could be
again, that could
that.
be Miami, but
hmm and then there's always a chance for the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, where like
I don't think so. He has
he
this, I think he has the suspension with NCAA.
he does, but you never know with him, like if he's
Mm.
gonna want to like take a year off or try and like get himself traded somewhere. Like he never stays
Yeah.
wherever he is long. He also seems like he's out of it, so I don't know what's
Mm.
going on with him. Um,
Also, one thing to note too with the, like you said, there's not many hirings next year, three, four. And of those, assuming Bucks, Bengals, and Eagles are all open, or one of them is, Tomlin's likely getting one of those three positions, in my opinion.
Maybe the one thing that there was a report yesterday from Jay Glazer saying that he doesn't expect Tomlin to go back to coaching ever again.
Oh, really?
Um, so I don't know if that's an informed opinion
Mm.
because he's usually pretty tight in
Yeah.
or if it's more of a gut. I don't know if he's just assuming because Bill Cowher
Did the
didn't go
same.
back and
Yeah.
did the same thing. But he said that he doesn't expect him to go back to coaching. So
Okay.
if he
That's fair.
doesn't, then there'd be that
Yeah.
other opening. If he does go back to coaching, I do think any of those spots, he's probably the first one to go to it.
Yeah.
Or the Eagles, the Bengals would be the top two picks that he'd probably want. The Bucks would be
Or
another
Bucks.
good one.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
but
no, I'd
anything else
agree.
on those?
Yeah, I think Stefanski to the Falcons makes a lot of sense, and Arthur Blank learned his mistake from not hiring Bill and not hiring his guy the last round, which is why he did this one fast of instead of having all these voices in, it's I know Stefanski's my guy, I know he's a good coach, I'm hiring him, and he learned I should have done that with Bill. I didn't, and this is what happened. I'm just going to go with my guy. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I
Mhm.
think Stefanski makes a lot of sense with the Falcons. They have a lot of talent, especially on offense, and I think he will fit there. Again, like you said with Salah, I was surprised with it because I think he's a very good defensive coach. I think he has the potential to be a good head coach. I'm surprised he would use his second chance there unless he believes in Cam Ward. McDermott, I think it was time for him to go. They've lost so many games, especially in the playoffs, by bad situational coaching. Um, but I would have thought if either him or Brandon Bean were gone, it would be Brandon Bean because he probably deserves it more. Both of them probably should have been gone. It's tough to do a full org, um, given this late in the process, having to get all the scouting in for the combine and everything. But for him to be promoted and then all the stuff that the owner said today of how it was McDermott who wanted Keon Coleman, throwing McDermott under the bus, throwing Keon Coleman under the bus, it just seems like it's a disaster over there. And I wouldn't be shocked if they end up hiring Joe Brady, who's I think would be terrible head coach there, or who's their former defensive coordinator, who they passed up when they got McDermott, who again will probably be a bad fit. I'm blanking on his name if it was either Weaver or Lynn. Um, but I think Brandon Beane's going to try and get someone that he can control, or the owner can control, essentially doing what the Titans did or what Robert Kraft tried to do after Bill. I think that's pretty much all I have on the news around the NFL. I'm
All right.
interested to see where Flores gets hired. If he does, I think Flores with Dayball as OC would be the best fit for the Bills. I don't think that will happen. I think Flores in either Ravens or Steelers would be a good fit there too, but we shall see.
Yep. All right. So Broncos game. So Bo Nix breaking his ankle against the Bills on the second to last play. Was very unfortunate. For them, it brings up Jarrett Stidham for quarterback. I know we at least I think you liked him too. Coming
I was
out.
just buying. Yeah, coming out, I liked him, and then I was buying the hype going into 2020. Irrational. It was rationally irrationally. So I believed in him in camp. He looked good, like without pads on, but
hmm
he seems to have the talent. But the one thing that will always stick with me is A, the pick sixes that he always happened to throw. But
hmm
B, 2021, I've never seen someone so content to be the third string quarterback, which is what he was in 2021. It was Mac Jones and then Brian Hoyer and then Stiddy.
hmm
And I've never seen someone just so content with that, where it just seems like he was just happy to be there instead of actually trying to fight for the position. But from what we've heard, this is his end of his third year in Sean Payton's offense. Sean Payton seems to like him. They gave him a contract extension last year to make him one of the higher end paid backup quarterbacks. So they do believe in him. He's had some starts, four starts with the Broncos, put up some good numbers. Interesting stat in his first career start, he had more passing yards than Bo Nix has ever had in a game with 365, where Bo Nix's most passes yards in a game was 352 a few weeks ago in the loss to Jacksonville. So thought that was an interesting stat. I didn't realize how much Bo Nix actually scrambles or how many designed runs they have for him in the Broncos offense,
hmm
and wondering how that's going to change their offensive style with Stidian this week. I know Harvey, since J.K. Dobbins went down with injury, he's kind of struggled the last 4 or 5 weeks, and their running game hasn't been able to get going. So I'm interested to see if Dobbins comes back, are their running game going to be able to get going? If he doesn't come back, is that really going to completely shut down their running game and force Stidham to throw? I think it's regardless if Dobbins comes back or not, it's Broncos are going to struggle running the ball with the Patriots front seven, especially if Farmer comes back, if Tonga comes back, also having Barmore and Williams. But if you're able to shut down that offense, then you just tee off on Stidham, and you know the pick sixes are coming.
Yeah, no, I think with Stidham, he's got a really good arm, really good mechanics. So he's got a very good throwing motion. That's why I liked him originally back in 2020, just from like camp and OTAs and that. But like you said, I just don't know if he's got the makeup to be that type of starting quarterback where he's got the drive um, to want it more than anyone else. Where we saw it back in 2020, he went to the wedding for a month. They it's just a lot of like social media stuff. And then he just always seemed content being a backup.
Yeah,
And even his agent saying like if you don't want your starting quarterback to go down, you gotta sign Jarrett. So I don't know if
yeah,
he's never had to actually go in because of like someone never getting hurt. But like if your whole point is that you just want him to be a backup quarterback forever, like there's never any drive to try and be a starter somewhere. Go someplace that like he would try and gain a job. Um and again, I wouldn't be surprised if he looks well. I just don't know if he'll be able to do it a full 4 quarters when he's
yep.
going in. He hasn't thrown a pass in a game in 2 years. So it's a lot of action that he hasn't seen. And just with the Patriots defense, the situation that he's going into, um, I would expect at least 1 or 2 picks.
Mhm.
I would think just based off his history, and being loose with the ball. I
Maybe a
do
strip
think
sack too.
he is mobile. He's not as mobile as Nick's. So I do think they'll try and do some bootlegs, some rollouts, but not as much rushing as
Yeah,
Nick's would do. So I think it'd be a little bit. I would say it's if Breeze and Nick's had a baby, kind of what the plan would be for Stidham.
yeah,
Um, other than
yeah. I think for the Broncos offense, obviously their number one option is going to be Cortland Sutton, who I think is a really good wide receiver. I know you think he is too. Another year with over 1,000 yards this year. He had 74 catches, 1,017 yards, 7 TDs. So obviously he's their number one guy you're going to have to try and shut down. In addition to him, you have some decent wide receivers. Troy Franklin, who had 700 yards over the season with 6 TDs. You have Marvin Mims, only 300 yards on the season, but he had a big game in the playoffs. And then you also have Evan Ingram. He had a down season again. He was injured last season, only 460 yards and 1 TD, but he's a guy that has shown he can be productive in this league at tight end. And then Harvey too, even though I mentioned him, he's struggled running the ball the past few weeks. He is a threat out of the backfield in the passing game where he has 47 catches, 350 yards, and 5 TDs. So especially when you get in the red zone, he's someone that you're going to want to keep an eye on. That if there's any screens or delayed screens that you make sure that he's covered. So it's going to be interesting to see what their coverage plan is given these wide receivers where Sutton's the clear number one option. After that, you have a lot of complementary pieces, like 3A type guys. So interested to see who you put on who, with Davis, Jones, some of the safeties as well. Who do you have covering Harvey out of the backfield? Will it be Ellis or someone else? But it'll be interesting to see. But I think the Patriots defense should be able to shut down this offense. Um, Over the year, they've only had, let me see, 4 games scoring at least 30 points. 3 games scoring at least 30 points. If you don't count the playoff win versus the Bills, if you do 4 games, they've won a lot of close games. A lot of them, especially under 30 points, under 20 points. So it should be interesting to see. Do you have anything else on their offense before we go to their defense?
no, I think you covered it all.
Defense, like I was saying earlier, Patriots offensive line is in for another tough game. This is something that we talked about the last few weeks as well. Their front seven is pretty good, to say the least. Nick Bonito having another career year, 14 sacks. My guess is they're just going to put him over Campbell. See, is Campbell able to hold on, just slow him down? They have four guys on the defense with at least 7 sacks, which is kind of insane. There's Benito with 14, Jonathan Cooper with 8, you have Zach Allen with 7, and then you have John Franklin Myers with 7.5. Their secondary is really good. Patrick Surtain Jr. Was Defensive Player of the Year last year. You have Riley Moss, who's a really good cornerback. You would like him, Kevin. And then they have some pretty good safeties. They're a strong defense. Second least amount of yards allowed this season, 278.2 behind the Texans, 277.2. And it's also important to know winning 14 games, you know that they're going to be your opposing offenses are going to be passing a lot and trying to get points and yards. So it's still having the second least amount of yards allowed in a season or for the season, really close to being the best. Only a yard difference. Their defense is strong and it's going to be tough. Playing in Denver is always tough. Patriots have, was it 3 losses when they in the playoffs when they're playing in Denver? They lost
Hmm.
the 2015 AFC Championship game. They lost the 2013 AFC Championship game. They lost the 2005 divisional round. And in all three of those games, they failed to score more than 18 points. And even going into 2015, again, that Patriots team was really banged up, but going into it, you had a corpse of Peyton Manning and they were still able to beat you. So that's why even with the Broncos uh, losing Bo Nix and going with Stiddy, Denver's a house of horrors and their defense is really good. The atmosphere, both the air pressure or the altitude, as well as the environment in the stands, it's going to be a cold game. It's going to be tough. I still think the Patriots should win, but I don't think it's a cakewalk that they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think everything you said was really good there. Riley Moss, I think they're going to try and target him just because he's known to have a lot of um, pass interference penalties.
Yeah.
So something similar with Carlton Davis, and a lot of teams try and attack him. I remember there's one Monday night game where Aikman kept saying that if they, I forget what team they're facing, but they're like they need to start attacking Riley Moss, and they're doing that right now because he's the corner you want to go after on this team.
Yeah. And
Um,
obviously, you don't want to be going after Surtain, so you want to go
mhm,
after someone else. But
yeah. But other than that, the one thing with their defense as well as they've been, I do think there's an opportunity to score points where they've been giving up points lately, and especially the Bills were able to score 31 points and they had 5 turnovers, and we're still able to score 31. So I do think there is a chance to still score points on this defense. I don't think it's going to be as difficult to go up against as the Texans were. I
Mhm.
do think it's going to be it, it was still around the Chargers, Texans, somewhere around there, but a little
Yeah,
bit easier.
yeah,
Um,
I'd say it's going to be in between the Chargers and Texans. If I'm
mhm.
just being what I'm guessing is going to happen, but I think again, you're going up against three of the top five defenses in the NFL in the playoffs. If they face Seattle, four of the top six.
Yeah.
But
All right. So the Patriots are favored by 5.5 points. Over under is 42.5. I've got them winning 31-13. I think they're going to score more points than they have the last couple weeks. I think they're going home the 13 points. And I think May will have a kind of a bounce back game from the last 2 games. I think he's going to have 3 touchdown passes. I think Mondre is going to run in for one. I think Borregales is going to hit a 62-yard field goal to end the half. So that's a
very
very
specific.
specific, but I have some weird gut feeling it's going to be a long field goal to end the half. What are your thoughts?
I have the Patriots winning 30-17.
Yeah, so still close there.
Three field goals, three touchdowns. Um, Again, I think their defense is going to be tough, but I think that your your offense is better than their offense, and your defense is similar. Possible how they're playing in the playoffs, your defense is better. But like depending on who you're playing, whatever, you could argue defenses are a wash. Maybe Denver's slightly better, maybe yours is better, depending on how
Mhm.
we played. But I just don't see how Stidham, unless he pulls a Fitzpatrick versus the Patriots or Nick Foles versus the Patriots, like I don't see the Broncos being able to have enough here unless Drake Maye has too many turnovers. That's the other thing. You can't turn the ball over.
Yep.
If you don't turn the ball over, you should win. If you do turn the ball over, that's when it gets tricky. And it can be loud there with that fan base, with that stadium set up where you're not going to be able to hear the play call, hear the snap count. So you got to get the ball out quick.
No, agreed too. That's another big thing there. I agree. If they do turn the ball over, that's where I could see it getting dicey,
Yep,
and they could potentially lose the game. If it's a
agreed.
clean game from the Patriots, they should win the game.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, hopefully everything goes in our favor, and then we're looking forward to a win on Sunday. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and view, and we'll talk to you guys next time.